Hi, this is Ashmita from Sources Classes. In today's class, we are going to discuss about the UPSC General Studies Paper 1. And as I told you in my previous videos that we are going to solve only 5 questions in each class. So today's class is based on question number 11, question number 12, 13, 14 and 15. Okay, so let's start discussing the answers, and also I'll be explaining it to you why are we choosing that answer as the correct one. So let us consider the following statements. Pursuant to the report of H.M. Sanil Committee, the Contempt of Courts Act 1971 was passed. Okay. Second one, the Constitution of India empowers the Supreme Court and the High Courts to punish for contempt of themselves. All right. Number 3, the Constitution of India defines the civil contempt and the criminal contempt. Number 4 says in India, the parliament is vested with the powers to make laws on contempt of court. Over here, they have asked you which of the statements given above is or are correct. Let us consider each of these statements once again. Number 1, I would be telling you what does this mean. I'm talking about number 1. Now, I'm referring to number 1 right now, and this means that the Contempt of the Courts Act, this is the Contempt of the Courts Act, this was passed in 1971, and it was passed on the recommendations of the H.M. Sanil Committee. So obviously this one is a correct one. Let us discuss sentence number 2, rather statement number 2. Now, statement number 2 is also correct. Why? Because the Constitution of India, we are talking about the Constitution of India, it empowers the Supreme Court and the High Courts also for the contempt of themselves. Okay, so High Courts, we are talking about High Courts now. High courts have the power to punish for contempt for lower courts under respective jurisdictions. Talking about number 3. So obviously number 2 is correct. Talking about number 3. Now, statement number 3 says the Constitution of India defines the civil contempt and the criminal contempt. No, this is a bit wrong. Let me tell you why. Because the Constitution of India, you see, the Constitution of India does not define any type of contempt of court. Okay, neither civil contempt nor criminal contempt. So this is wrong. Moving over to the next statement, that is number 4. This says in India, the parliament is vested with the powers to make laws on contempt of court. Yeah, this is correct. In India, it is the parliament only who has the power to legislate over the contempt of court. Okay, so it's the parliament is vested with those powers to make laws on the contempt of court. So it's a correct one. So we just found that number 1, number 2 and number 4 are correct. So obviously we can see it's in number B, 1, 2 and 4. Let's move over to the next question. They are saying with reference to India, consider the following statements. Let's go through the statements once. Government law officers and legal firms are recognized as advocates, but corporate lawyers and patent attorneys are excluded from recognition as advocates. Okay. Let's go through the second one. The bar councils have the power to lay down the rules relating to legal education and recognition of law colleges. Now, here also we need to answer which one of them or which ones are correct. Your correct answer would be number 2. Okay. We will consider number one to be incorrect because you see, government law officers, legal firms, and corporate lawyers and patent attorneys, they are all recognized as advocates. Okay, they are not excluded from recognizing as advocates, they are actually advocates. So, you see, it's written they are excluded, so obviously it's not correct. They are included in the advocate category, that is government law officers, then advocates, corporate lawyers, patent attorneys, they are all considered under advocates. Let's move over to a discussion of the second one. Why did I say it's correct? It's because bar councils, we're talking about bar councils now, bar councils have the powers to lay down the rules relating to legal education and, of course, the recognition of law colleges. Okay, so this one is correct. So we are going with option number B as the correct one because it shows that number 2 is only correct. Number B. Let's move over to the discussion of the next question, that is question number 13 for today's class. Question number 13 says, consider the following statements. Number one statement says, a bill amending the constitution requires a prior recommendation of the President of India. Number two says, where a constitution amendment bill is presented to the President of India, it is obligatory for the President of India to give his or her assent. Number three says a constitution amendment bill must be passed by both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha by a special majority, and there is no provision for joint sitting. Now, over here, what can we consider? Now, they have told to consider the following statements, and the question that they are asking is which of the statements given above are correct, like almost like the previous questions that we had. Reconsidering these statements once again, let's go through number one. Now, number one, it's incorrect. Why, because no prior approval is no prior approval of the president is required for the Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, so obviously this is the wrong one. Number two, if we reconsider once again, uh, this one is correct because it is, it is obligatory for the president to give his assent. When a constitutional amendment bill is presented before him, he is obligatory, like it is obligatory for the president to give his assent. So the president cannot exercise any veto power regarding the constitutional amendment bill. So of course, this is correct. Let us reconsider the statement, that is number three. Um, this is also correct because you see, any kind of constitutional amendment bill needs to be passed by both the houses with like separately by a special majority, and no joint sitting is allowed regarding the constitutional amendment bill. So obviously they have mentioned about no provision for joint sitting, so this is correct. So we are considering number 2 and number 3 to be correct. So obviously we are going with option number B. Yes. Let us move over to the next question. The next question says, consider the following statements. Now, statement number 1 says the Constitution of India classifies the ministers into 4 ranks. That is the cabinet minister, the minister of state with independent charge, minister of state, and deputy minister. And number 2 says the total number of ministers in the union government, including the prime minister, shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members in the Lok Sabha. So, can we just reconsider the statements once again? Now, number 1 sentence. Just read it once again. This sentence is absolutely incorrect. Why? Because Constitution of India does not define any categorization of ministers. Okay. So obviously this is wrong because it has shown categorization of ministers. Now moving over to number two, let us reconsider this once again. Uh, now this one is correct. Just read it once. This one is correct because the total number of ministers, including the prime minister, should not exceed 15% of the total membership of the Lok Sabha. Okay, so of course this one is correct. So we are going to consider only number two to be correct. So obviously we can see over here that is number B is showing 2 only. So number B is the correct option. Moving over to the last question for today's class, that is question number 15. Question number 15 says, which of the following is or are the exclusive powers of the Lok Sabha? First one, to ratify the declaration of emergency. Number two says to pass a motion of no confidence against the Council of Ministers. Number three says to impeach the President of India. So which one is correct? Here only number two is correct. Why? I'm telling you, let's reconsider the first statement and then we can just go over to the second one and then the third one. Now, statement one is incorrect. Why I'm saying so? Because if the president is satisfied that the grave emergency exists whereby the security of India or of any part of the territory thereof is threatened, okay, whether by war it is threatened or external aggression or armed rebellion, he may by proclamation make a declaration to that effect in respect of the whole of India or of such part of the territory. So every proclamation which is issued under this article shall be laid before each house of the parliament. Okay, one statement to be incorrect. Moving over to statement number two, let us reconsider this statement once again. Now, yes, sentence number two is correct. Why? Because you see Article 75, we are talking about Article 75 of the Constitution that says that the Council of Ministers, like we are talking about the Council of Ministers in the Article 75 of the Constitution, the Council of Ministers shall be collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Okay. And this means that the ministry stays in office so long as it enjoys confidence of the majority of the members of the Lok Sabha. In other words, we can also say that the Lok Sabha can remove the ministry from office by passing a no confidence motion. Okay, and the motion needs the support of 50 members to be admitted. All right. So therefore, obviously, this statement is correct. Let's consider number three once. To impeach the President of India. No, this one is incorrect. Why? We are talking about statement 3. Why is it incorrect? It's because the charges in a parliament are signed by 1/4 of the members of the house. All right. And there's a 14 days notice which should be given to the president. And after the impeachment resolution is passed by a majority of 2/3 of the total membership of that house, it is sent to the other house, which should investigate the charges. And then the president will definitely have the right to appear and to be represented at such investigation. And if the other house also sustains the charges and passes the impeachment resolution by a majority of 2/3 of the total membership, then the president stands removed from his office from the date on which the resolution is so passed. So obviously this statement which is provided over here is wrong. So we are going to consider number 2 as the only correct option. So number B is the correct one, which is considering 2 only. So that's it for today's class. We're going to discuss and solve more about such kind of questions, this question paper itself in our other classes, like 5 questions each class. So do follow this series of videos so that you can just solve it and just learn explanations, like why and how I'm choosing this, why I'm choosing this as the correct one, and why I'm just rejecting the other options as the incorrect ones. So that's it. If you want to know something more about our classes, let me tell you, we have live lectures, recorded lectures, portal access, which would be provided to all the enrolled candidates. And here we teach for all kinds of competitive examinations at Saurabh's classes. We also teach for all kinds of interest-related examinations and other like any kind of preparation if you are doing, we will help you out with that. We will provide you with solutions to the previous year's question papers, unsolved paper solutions, sample paper solutions. Then we are going to provide you with solved study materials which would be provided at your doorstep itself. And we would also provide you with mock test facilities, scholarship facilities, worksheets after every session. And there would also be if you want to join our classes, you can just go over to the description box just below this video. You will get it, and you will get the link, that is www.saurabhsclasses.com. You will also get the contact number, contact details, and everything is there in the description box. You can just go over to that site, official website, or you can also call us and ask about your queries or whatever preparation you're doing. You can just ask us. We will clear all your doubts. And that's it for today's class. We're going to meet once again in our next classes.